About 40 years.
40 years. So Augie's been in real estate for about 40 years and been doing this for a long time. And somebody that even some of the people that were in my Good Success Mastermind had gone to Augie as a mentor or as somebody that they looked up to many years ago. So I'm excited to have him on today. But before we get started, I'm just going to share my screen and go through a couple things on our end. Hopefully I can get this to work here. Slideshow, play from start. All right, so there we are. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being on this call. Like I said, we've got last call was with Josh Belk. He was also one of the speakers at the Free for All event, and his mom is doing better. So make sure you guys continue to pray for him. But thanks to Josh for being on the last call. If you guys didn't catch the last call, what he talked about last call was what are some of the IRS changes? What are some of the things that we might want to be on the lookout for tax wise in our real estate businesses for 2023, and did a really good job. And actually on the last call, there was two guys on the call that said that one call saved them $15,000 in tax. So if you think that might be you might want to go back and watch that last call. So make sure you guys catch all those. You guys can go to our website, goodsuccess.com/free for all, free real estate calls. And they're also on YouTube and all of our social media platforms as well. So today we've got Augie Byllott. I think that might be the first time I've said his name right, I think there, but Augie Byllott, thanks for being on today. Appreciate your time investing in our community and investing in us. And I'm looking forward to hearing him as well. But me, since last month or last time we had these calls, it was some birthday times around my house. So my wife, my beautiful wife of the 26 years, had a birthday, and my son Zach turned 10 years old. So that's some birthday pictures for them. Also, I got to be on the radio twice. So I'm on our church has a radio station called 90.5 the Key FM. WRTW stands for We Reach the World. And they say that their radio station is the missionary that never sleeps. So I love that statement of them. But I host that show a couple times a month. I got to be on with two people. My son Zach just this week. Zach loves to tell jokes, so we always have some jokes when he's on the radio. And then also a young man who works for me. He's been working for me for about 6 months. If you were at the Free for All event, you got to see him. But he's actually in our church's recovery home for addictions, and he's just been a good guy. He gave his testimony on the radio and just had a good time with that. Also, would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Free for All event. Lots of good pictures here from the Free for All event. Some of you guys that are on the call, got to see are in some of those pictures. But we had a really good time. It was definitely the best event that we've put on, and already have 5 people that have already paid for sponsorships for next year. I was really kind of shocked about that. Already have people that have joined my local meetup group to get the tickets, the free VIP tickets that they get for next year's event as well. So good things happening in the Good Success communities. So happy to be a part of that. Who can forget, P plus P plus P equals P plus P. That was a great presentation. I'll definitely I won't forget that one. Won't forget Anna, or I think her name, I think it's Hannah or Anna. I'm not sure exactly how she says her name, with the money multiplier, 24 years old, and just kind of ripped the stage apart and did a great job. And then also Augie closed out on Friday night. And at the end, we did the auction, and we raised enough money to give away 405 wheelchairs for Chair of the Love. And Tom Berry was a big part of that, the auctioneer. Rick Bressler said if we hit our goal, he was going to shave off or cut off his ponytail. We did that on the stage that night, and just appreciate everybody for that. I'm still kind of in awe of what God will do with people that are willing to let him use them. So thank you for everybody for that. But really was a great night, and really happy that we were able to be a part of that. Couple things coming up. I want to remind everybody about the cruise. I know we had 4 or 5 people sign up for this cruise at our event. So we've got and I keep having these early bird specials. I'm not sure if that's still available, guys. But Tom Nardone and some people are putting on this cruise, Peggy, And so if you guys want to go on this cruise, it's February 11th through 18th. Are you going on this, Augie?
I will be there. I'm
Okay,
really
Augie will be
excited.
there.
Yeah, the last one, Tom, was spectacular.
Yeah, it was a great cruise. I think we're going on the same ship, the Wonder. If not, it's the same
This
series.
this is the newest one in the fleet.
Okay, so this one's the newest one, but I think it's the same series as the last one. So it's a really big ship. It's really cool. They've got an ice show. They've got a water show. And as far as where we're going, we don't even care where we're going, right? Because it's the people that we're with on the cruise all week. And to me, I've been on probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 of these investor cruises throughout their years. The first one I went on was Quest IRA's Fun Cruise, way back when Quincy Long had hair and had a lot of fun on those, and did Financial Friends Network for many years. And glad to be a part of this network as well. Jerry Ricky's also got a cruise, I think, next year as well, that I'll be on as well. If you guys are interested in next year's Free for All event, we already have everything set up. So it's going to be September 5th through the 7th. And there is a QR code and the link there to be able to go to to sign up for that. I think we've got so first of all, we have switched up things a little bit. We got the VIP package for 1, and we changed it so there's a VIP package for 2 now, and then also general admission, and then general admission for 2 as well. So the kind of different things that different people will get for that next year. I wanted to put this up here, and I'm just going to let it sit here for a little bit. If you guys want to take a picture of this, there was some haves and wants that didn't get taken from the event, and I wanted everybody to get an opportunity to be able to maybe take a screenshot of this, because I know when you're at an event, sometimes you just forget about it. You see it, and you're like, oh, but just making sure that maybe if you got money and you want to deploy it, maybe if you got deals, or maybe if you whatever you have or whatever you want, might be on this board here. So I know a lot of us are looking for deals, but at the same time, maybe there's some things that we have or we want that we'd like to get or to get rid of. So take advantage of that. Also, we got the videos for the event. If you guys want to get those, you guys can get those on the website. And I've got a quick promo video. I haven't even viewed this video, so you guys are the first people to view this video right alongside with me.
Kessler here with the Money Multiplier, and I've honestly met a lot of folks that I can even expand my own real estate ventures with, and now I'm creating these relationships that I'm meeting here at Good Success.
Hey everybody, Tom Berry here from Houston, Texas. I represent the ILS companies, and here at the event, this has been an incredible event. They had a packed house with really good quality people. We've had some really great conversations, so I am sure we're going to do a lot of business with the folks here in Indiana.
Anna Kelly, REI mom, and I am so happy to be here with Tom Olson at the Success Free for All conference here in Gary, Indiana. I highly encourage you to plug into Tom's network and plug into the Free for All monthly meetings.
There it is. If you guys haven't joined the Facebook group, make sure you guys join the Real Estate Free for All Facebook group. And remember, as always, to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. One quick piece this morning. I got to listen to a podcast with the CEO of auction.com, and they were talking about some things this morning. And I just kind of wanted to throw this out there because this is real estate, what's going on in real estate. And what they're saying is it seems like at the auctions right now that there's not a lot of people at the table. So this is like auction.com, they probably have half the foreclosures that are even in the market on their website. And he's saying, you know what, people are starting to become more disciplined. The only people at the table are the 20-year veterans. The people that just got in over the last 5 years kind of are not there. They're not bidding. And the people that are bidding are being very disciplined. And they're people that know their numbers. And I'm glad that we've been a part of that. and that we continue to buy the right deals, and we continue to make sure that our calculators work, and that we only buy really, really good deals. But as far as other things are concerned, you've got sectors that are just really not performing that well. Financials not performing well, consumer staples, discretionary, spending is way down. Energy is even way down. But the ones that are still ticking upwards is technology, healthcare, and industrials and materials. So just to kind of throw that out there a little bit, I always want people to pay attention to what's going on in the market. That's just one thing that I've tried to make sure that I do, and I always want everybody to that has an opportunity. This is the time you probably want to listen to some more podcasts than you normally listen to. Be careful of just all the talking heads saying the same thing over and over again. Look for those people that are looking at things in a little different perspective and in a little different direction. I think it'll be helpful to you guys. I don't want to take up too much time on that because we've got Augie on, but what they were calling for on this is a double dip. So I think we had a little bit of a softening in the early part of this year, and then all of a sudden, spring came out, and everybody kind of got a little bit of boldness, and they got a little bit of let's go and buy a little bit, and now we're starting to see this already kind of really tail off towards the end of this year. So I believe the next 18 months are going to be tough months, but keep your head up. We shouldn't be fearing. That's not why we do business, is to be in fear, but to have knowledge, and to have wisdom, and to act with discretion. So with that being said, I'm going to leave the floor and let Augie have the floor here, and let him go. One thing I did forget. I think it's still on my screen. I apologize. I messed up. Totally messed up. We do have the next call. I don't want to forget to go over the next call. If you're local here in Northwest Indiana, we do have an investor meetup group this Thursday, October 5th at 5:30 p.m. talking about property management. And Brad Mestina is a local property manager, and we also have a property management company. And I never want people to think that I'm only here promoting myself with our events and with our things. Cheryl is our property manager, so they're going to be on a panel, but Brad's going to be the one that's actually going to speak, and his topic is how to manage your own property how to do your own property management, not necessarily how to hire a property manager, but how to do your own property management. Next call, don't want you guys to miss this call. David Melcovany, I promise you he's a treat if you like economics. And Tori Aguilar, he was at our event talking about precious metals. So you guys want to make sure this is a week away. So we don't normally do this, but since we skipped September, we're going to do 2 calls here in October here. And then now, without further ado, I will leave the floor and let Augie have the floor. So Augie, thanks for being on. Appreciate you being on today, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all. And yeah, we have been just tearing it up. Life is good, and we're trying to serve as best we can wherever we can. Connected. Let me just turn that completely off, and that would be good. Okay, good. Now there'll be no more sounds and ringing. I wanted to talk about 5 subjects today, and each of them has some points underlying them. One is what I call the financial freedom blueprint. The second one is what I call the wealth system. The third is the lifestyle and legacy progression plan. 4 is land trusts. And 5 is share the love. I think I have 35 to 40 minutes. So we'll see how far we get through all of this. But the financial freedom blueprint, and this is for all investors, regardless of level, we've got different things that we can aspire to. I talk to investors all the time, and I want to be a wholesaler, I want to be a landlord, I want to be a flipper, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be the other thing. And that's a great way to replace your current job with another job. As I talk to investors around the country, and I've led masterminds and I've done coaching programs over the years, and what I've learned is we're really not in the real estate business. We are in the money business. Real estate is a great activity, because of the dollar volume that flows through transactions, whether it's in the form of rent, whether it's in the form of financing, whether it's in the form of, buy, fix, and sell. We can do very well financially as a result of what we do when we touch real estate or things that are related to real estate, whether it's notes, leases, options. All these different elements fall under this umbrella we call real estate. So starting with, the most basic thing is what I call the financial freedom blueprint. And it's where a lot of people begin. And the idea is to master each of these 5 elements over time. The first is wholesaling. It's finding bargains for bargain hunters. And normally when I teach this with a slide presentation, I kind of have a circle because they are all connected. And in the center of that circle is you. You are the hub, and each of these 5 elements are the spokes. So you might want to think about it in that context. So wholesaling to me is a very tough job, and it is a job because you go out and you catch it, you kill it, you eat it, and tomorrow you have to go out and do it all over again. It's a way to produce income, not so much a way to produce wealth. And we don't take on much risk. But when we become willing to take on a little bit more risk, well, what can we do then? Well, then maybe we can buy, fix, and sell. Rehabbing, renovating houses, whatever you want to call it. But what it's doing is adding value to those properties that we can turn around and resell and capture more of the profit for us. Obviously, if you're going to do buy, fix, and sell, you got to get involved in things like inspections. You need to know how to negotiate. Have to know how to negotiate to keep equity in the deal so that you can have a profit at the end of the day. And right now, that's becoming an increasingly challenging business simply because in many markets, there's not a lot of property available, number one, and number two, prices are up. That being said, the thing I like about buy, fix, and sell is someone's always getting a job transfer, someone's always dying, someone's always struggling with a financial issue. So life is what produces these opportunities for both wholesaling and for buy, fix, and sell. Now, the third is beginning to transform our income, and that's getting involved in leases with options. Lease options to me are one of the best strategies for both buying and selling real property. Why? Because it changes the character of our income. The first 2 elements I discussed, wholesaling and buy, fix, and sell, produce ordinary income. You're going to be taxed at the highest rate. And again, in both cases, it doesn't create any kind of residual income. It doesn't create any kind of equity buildup. And in both cases, time is not your friend, it's your enemy. With a lease option, you're going to produce passive income because you're going to be renting the property. It's a 2-part transaction. You have a lease, which is a rental agreement, and you have an option agreement, which is a way of selling a bundle of rights. Those rights speak to an amount of time in which you have to exercise the option, and you have a leasing agreement, which is basically a standard rental agreement. One of the things I like is the fact that since I own a trust company, my trustee always executes the option because they are the owner of the property. They're the owner of record of the property, even though they're not the beneficiary controlling things. And then I have the property manager sign the lease. So no court in their right mind would ever say, hey, wait, this is some kind of a financing arrangement. In order to get rid of them, you can't evict, you're going to have to foreclose. Now, granted, you can have a liberal judge that decides to legislate from the bench, but we have been very fortunate in situations where we've had to evict. We were able to evict under the lease because there were 2 separate transactions with 2 different sets of principles.
Yeah, and we've done this many times as well. We've never had a problem as long as those 2 agreements are separate.
Right.
with evicting. So
the other thing I like about lease options is my option agreement is an asset that has value. I can use that option as collateral. I can even sell that asset. I can sell that option agreement to somebody else, and I can even structure it so that they cannot exercise it for a certain period of time, giving me the opportunity to enjoy whatever cash flow the property is producing. So a lease option takes us into a much better financial place than I think the first two transactions. But at the end of the day, the other thing that I like about lease options is I'm going to take a non-refundable option fee. And so we've had houses where they were kind of yo-yo houses unintentionally. There were some investors who are a little less scrupulous, and they will put people in houses that will never, ever be able to exercise that option and become a homeowner. Our lease options close about 80% of the time with the first guy that options the property. But we've had one property where we collected over $60,000 in option fees from 3 or 4 different people prior to the last guy finally being able to exercise. And one guy left behind a $26,000 option fee, which is a lot of money, but this guy got a job transfer. He was always on time with his rent. And the only thing he asked me was, would it be okay for me to exit my lease early? He never asked for a penny back on the option. And I said, hey, just look at your lease. I give you an out in your lease. You can simply give us 30 days notice and a 1-month early termination fee. He said, well, if I give you that now, when my company sends you a check, can I leave next week? I've been transferred to California, and they gave me a great big raise. So I said, of course. What else was I going to say? And then my CPA asked, how is it you earned 14 months rent on this house in 12 months? So I had to give him the story. But our paperwork is also obviously critically important in how we structure our deals and make sure that we're adequately protected. But going beyond, our lease options, we want to start creating wealth. Now, that lease gives us passive income. Holding the option agreement also positions us for long-term capital gains. So both of those things create better opportunities to keep more of what we earn. They say it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And it's what we keep that allows us to choose how those funds are dispersed. Next, we have buy and hold. That's where we build up wealth. Okay, so that's element number 4. We all know what buy and hold is about. We want to, if we can buy with equity, great, but we're a lot less price sensitive when we buy properties that we intend to hold for the long term. What we're looking for is cash flow. And this is where hopefully we can start to negotiate things like seller financing and subject to, and getting favorable financing terms with the properties that will allow us to both build up equity and produce cash flow. Now, if I could get a 1,000-year mortgage at $100 a month, I would take that over something I can pay off really fast, because I don't really care if I own rental properties free and clear. What I'm looking for with rentals is cash flow. And I get a whole host of tax advantages. But then number 5, that's being the bank. That's where I wanted to get to. And we built a portfolio over a number of years that got us up to 40 or 50 houses. And as my businesses grew, I knew that what I wanted to do was sell the majority of those properties off to my tenants. And the way I did that was on terms. So I made money on the real estate, and I also made money on the money. By being the bank, I can be a private lender. I can still be an investor. I can invest in notes. I can do a whole host of other things. That being the bank allows us to play more in the field of paper assets. And once you are the bank, that gives you tremendous, tremendous power. So wholesaling, buy, fix, and sell, buy and hold. I'm sorry, lease options, buy and hold, be the bank. With those 5 strategies or methods, how do we get good at those, or how do we uncover them? And that's where the wealth system evolved from. And it's a 6-letter acronym. It's where are the opportunities? Learning to market. And if you're a newer investor, your marketing is going to be a really important part of your business. But before you spend a lot of money on marketing, you've got to build some skills. And we're going to talk about those in the next segment. So where are the opportunities? E is evaluating the motivation. Okay, we want to deal with people that are motivated. I don't like to buy off the MLS. Never have. I have, but it's not my focal point. I like talking to sellers. I like talking to people, the individual, because that's where I can negotiate the best deals. No agent is never going to know how far I'm willing to go on a deal, nor are they going to know how far that seller is willing to go on a deal. And if they don't understand my offers, which frequently they don't, they say it's, that's illegal, or I don't get it, or this is a bad deal, or there's something odd here. I like to negotiate. I like to be flexible. Those of you that know me and have heard me talk before, you know that I stopped counting deals at about 600. But in that first 600 deals I did moving from New York to Florida back in 2003, I've had 2 bank loans. Everything else has been creatively financed one way or another. So E is exploring motivation or evaluating motivation. And that doesn't mean desperation. People think, oh man, you just take advantage of people that are down on their luck. But I've had people pay me to take the house off their hands, and they could afford to write those checks simply because it was easier for them to sell me the house and write me a check than it was for them to get it prepared for sale, go through the sales process. These were people of means that they were done with the particular property and they wanted to move on. Next is analyzing the whats and the whys. Understanding the motivation of your seller is more important than the numbers 9 times out of 10. I bought a lot of houses from people because they chose to work with me rather than my competition, even when my competition was willing to pay more. And I don't think that's because I'm a great negotiator, but I take the time to understand what a person's problem is, and they develop enough confidence that I'm going to complete the transaction. And, we have a few hurricanes down here every now and then. And one of the best deals I ever did, I had 2 young guys working with me at the time, and we were going to get a contract. Long story short, the seller said, hey, there's another investor that came after we talked to you, and they said they were going to give me $10,000 more. And I said, if you can get $10,000 more, please get them on the phone, invite them over right now. I just want to make sure they're in a position to deliver you that $10,000, because if they are, I want you to get it. And these 2 young guys are freaking out because they think they're going to lose their piece of the deal. And my concern was the seller, not me. And the woman said, are you serious? I said, yes, please get them on the phone, because not everybody that says something is willing to follow through on it. So if you get them over here, tell them bring their contract, I'll review it free of charge and make sure it's legit. If it's legit, I want you to sign it and work with them and not me. I'll even, follow through the rest of the transaction with you to make sure what's supposed to happen happens. And the woman got up from the table, started walking. She got halfway to the kitchen where the phone was. This was back in the days when phones were actually connected to the wall. And she turned around and came back and said, no, I want to do business with you. And I heard a dual sigh of relief behind me with these 2 young guys saying, oh my God, we thought we were going to lose the deal. But it's understanding the whys. The whats are pretty simple to work with. That's just numbers and they're easy to figure out. The L is laying out alternatives. So we've got WEAL, laying out alternatives. I never make a single offer to a seller. I give them multiple offers. I give them typically 3, 1 with no cash, 1 with all cash, and 1 somewhere in the middle. And I ask them, what of these 3 offers, which one is the best for your family? And by giving people a choice, I have gotten tremendous results. They don't feel like I'm pressuring them. They don't feel like I'm throwing something against the wall to see if it sticks. And even when I'm laying out those offers, I let them know before I even give them any numbers. I have 3 offers. The first is going to be my lowest, but it's all cash. And it can close very quickly, as little as 10 days. And you're done with the property. Second offer, I'm going to give you some cash, and we're going to work on some terms. The third, I'm going to give you no cash now, because if you don't need the cash, I can pay you my highest price, because that gives me time to find a tenant, it gives me time to do some renovations, and it can get you a greater price in the long run. So they now know to expect 3 different offers, and one is going to be low. So prior to that, I got to be honest, I used to gag when I gave my own cash offers. At least now, laying the groundwork, people have an expectation, plus they know something else is coming that's going to be higher, that's going to potentially give them more of what they think they want. And they don't always know what they want. So sometimes hearing those 3 offers helps them to see there are different possibilities. The T stands for teaming up for the close. You've got to be ready as quickly as possible. You need your inspectors, you need your title company, you need trustees, you need your lenders. You need all of the people on your team to help you to execute that transaction. And having a good team is critical. Our title company, as an example, has saved us money numerous times because they found things that you might not otherwise uncover. You want to make sure that you don't cheap out and, try to save a penny, because it can end up costing you $1. And with real estate, those multiply quickly. So we team up for the close, and then finally is have exits. Now, in this market where we are today, you may buy something with the intent of renting it, or you may buy something with the intent of reselling it. But do your best to buy in such a way that you have multiple exit strategies available. And the thing that has always guided me has been the way I purchase the property. If I have to buy all cash, I want to have a way to replace that cash in the event I can't sell it. But if I can buy on terms, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to rent that property. And so if I can hold it, that's great. But every now and then you buy something and you thought this was going to be a great rental market, and it wasn't. So can I turn around and sell that property? So always have multiple exits. So that's the wealth system in a nutshell. WEALTH. Where are the opportunities? Evaluate motivation, analyze the whats and whys, lay out the alternatives, team up for the close, and have exits.
So your wealth system is really kind of based on the acquisition part of the whole.
It is, except for having exits, because exits are going to give you the opportunity to rent it or sell it or do a lease option. Those are the 3 primary exits. Next is that lifestyle and legacy progression plan. And this is where, once you have those first 2 elements, the financial freedom blueprint, and then obviously the wealth system, how do we build the chops, the skills to become a successful investor? And it starts out with level 1, which is becoming what I refer to as a transaction engineer. And that's somebody that knows how to execute the various transactions. It's someone who knows how to uncover leads, to do lead generation, either by buying leads or generating your own. And it takes some time. And one of the things that I've always done, with clients and students that wanted to learn this business, is I would tell them, go out, talk to 50 sellers, and make 50 offers with no intentions of doing a deal. If you happen to trip over a deal, great. But I want you to hear the objections. There's only about 20 objections in any business. And when you learn how to respond to those objections, you'll build your confidence. And as you build your confidence, you become a lot more believable and your credibility improves. And so you'll find yourself closing a lot more transactions. And so there are a variety of steps that fall under that transaction engineer heading. And once you learn how to finance, once you learn how to negotiate, how to generate leads, and how to close transactions, now you're ready for step two. Step two is, or level two, is becoming a marketing master. When I first started in this business, as far as the creative side of it, and I didn't use realtors and I was negotiating financing terms and whatnot, I had to learn these things. But what I didn't realize I had to learn these things. And so I spent tons of money on marketing, would generate leads and not answer my phone. Because I came out of the banking industry where I worked for 22 years and I was really good at what I did. I worked my way up the food chain over the, couple of decades. I was a vice president. I was leading a national sales team, making great money. And it was real estate that let me retire when I was 50. And so I was like at the top of the food chain, at least I felt. And then I come in and I don't know what to say when some poor guy says, I'm going into foreclosure, or I just didn't have the answers. And so I was doing myself a great disservice until I finally looked myself in the mirror and said, okay, you've got to go back and start over. You've got to learn this business. And so that's why becoming a transaction engineer should precede becoming a marketing master, because you can waste a lot of money. And, that's not why we're in business. We're not here to waste money. We're here to make money. Mm-hmm. So, to be a marketing master, you've got to have a number of irons in the fire, and you have to understand whether you're doing active marketing, passive marketing, what the difference is, how to create a team, how to build a bird dog network. All of these are things that, fall under that level two of becoming a marketing master. By doing things in order, it's just like building a house. If you don't pour the foundation first after leveling the land, well, if you start, banging 2x4s together, it's not going to serve much purpose because you're not going to build much of a domicile. Same thing with our business. So transaction engineer, then a marketing master. But you've also got to run your business like a business. And that's, starting to behave like a business owner. And this is where you really have to figure out where you start to buy back your time. You need to bring on help. Otherwise, you're going to wear all the hats. And wearing all the hats simply gets you another job. And I had that for a while until I realized that, I thought I was doing this as a business, but I wasn't. I was somewhere between a hobby and a job. I don't know, call that a jobby, because that's really what it was like. And I found that I had very little time and I was doing way too many things. When I started to look at my business like a business, it allowed me to really transform how I was executing. And I began to execute through others. By executing through others, I was still able to oversee activities, but oversight took a whole lot less time than executing the various and sundry components of the transactions. And as I started to do that, my transaction volume grew, as did my income, and it allowed me to become a business owner. And as I began to throw off more income, I was able to see more opportunities, which allowed other businesses to evolve. So we had a buy, fix, and sell business. We had a property management business because we were holding a lot of properties. But now I was producing more cash than I could consume, and that spun off a private lending business. And then I was asked, by our local RIA, would I teach a seminar? I said, on what? I never viewed myself as a teacher, and yet I did. And now I found myself in the information business. 3 seminars in, some guy came up and said, wow, that was really great. Where do I buy your information? Where do I, you got books and tapes, and I was like, not yet, was the best answer I could give. But then we started to record, and now we have a different kind of business. A coaching program developed. We had spun off an education company, and then a trust company. And it continued to grow, but it couldn't have done any of that had I not acted like a business owner. But then the next level became a CEO, a chief entrepreneurial officer. And I know we've got some of those, sitting out there on this call. Hey, Tom, I didn't see you out there, Tom Nardone. Good to see you this morning. So at the CEO level, you get involved in lots of things. I got involved with the National Real Estate Investor Association for a number of years. My wife served on their board. We got involved in some local politics. We got more involved in the RIA world. And as a result, I was able to give back in the real estate community. And that seemed pretty good. And it was somewhere along that time period that I realized that giving back is really an important concept. And so I started with this $1 billion challenge. It started out as a $100 million challenge. And then I was involved in a mastermind where somebody said, don't be a wimp, you need to 10 times that goal. And so we started the $1 billion challenge. And my mission became to train 10,000 investors. And what I wanted to train them was to be successful enough that they could give $100 a week to the charity of their choice. And you just simply do the math. And over a 20-year period, we could literally gift $1 billion that might not otherwise have been gifted. And I don't do any bookkeeping on it. I don't do any accounting on it. But one of the nicest things that ever happened was this young woman who had been attending my seminars for, I don't know, a couple of years. And she came to a seminar one day, and I always like to greet people at the door on day one. And she comes in and says, I did it. I said, what did you do? She said, I started 2 years ago at $5 a week. And now I have gone 6 months at $100 a week going to charity. And it blew my mind. I never knew what kind of impact this was going to have on people. Will we get to that $1 billion? I don't know. But part of what we need to do is to teach people about giving back. And it's really not even giving back. It's simply giving.
Yeah.
And I love, Tom Olson's approach to business. Be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. And as much as I thought that the final level was this CEO level, I learned that there was one more level, and it was living your legacy. And you can do that at any level you are at financially. And that's what I love about, continuing to get to breathe on this earth, is that, the Lord continues to show me these little things when it's time for them to be revealed. And maybe he was trying to show me a lot longer, and I'm just a slow student. But it makes a huge difference when we can live our legacy. And so part of that legacy leads to where I'm going next. And that's, we learn to create all this wealth. We learn to make money. My company was even called Creating Wealth USA. That was our education and training business. And in 2013, I realized that we also need to be teaching people how to protect what they are producing. Being a good steward doesn't mean just making it and giving it away, but it's also protecting. And so that's when Commonwealth Trust Services was born in 2013. And the reason it took me a while was because coming from New York before I moved to Florida, we were not a land trust state, and I had never even heard of a land trust. But once I did, it took me about 2 years to kind of figure out what that exactly was about. And if you look me up in the public records in the state of Florida, I've done lots and lots of transactions, but you will not find my name owning any properties. And the reason for that is, very early on, I took the stuff that I had bought in my name or in my LLCs, and I moved them into land trusts. And since then, every transaction I have done has been in a land trust. And I want to keep my name off public records for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is because I don't want people to think I've got deep pockets. When a tenant goes in to, on a slip and fall and you did nothing wrong, defending yourself in court can be an ugly and frustrating thing. If they can't find me, it's going to make it more difficult. If a bunch of properties don't show up in my LLCs or in my name, it reduces the likelihood that I'm going to get sued. Now, privacy is important. You still want to have a good asset protection plan. I use LLCs as my beneficiaries. And that gives me a really strong structure, because the most costly thing for an investor in this business, they say for landlords, it's vacancy. I say it's lawsuits. And if you stay in the business long enough, you're going to find yourself in a lawsuit. And defending yourself doesn't mean you're going to be able to collect fees from the other side. And so you're just going to be out whatever it costs you to defend yourself. The other thing is, stuff can happen in this world that can be extremely tragic. And, you know, we see it, you know, in our culture today with cancel culture and everything else going on. But imagine you get to the point in your business where you can close a deal on the phone, send somebody else out to look at the property, mail the paperwork away, close it through your trustee. You've purchased the property sight unseen. You send your contractors out, they renovate it, and you either engage a real estate agent or someone else to sell the property for you. And you've purchased, renovated, and sold a property you've never lived in. And heaven forbid, somebody in that chain missed something, and the baby's room is on the opposite side of the wall from one of the bathrooms, which has had a leak in it, and now black mold has grown. That kid gets sick and dies. Now, this is a tragic example, but imagine if I owned that property in my own name, and front page news on the Orlando Sentinel, real estate investor Augie Byllott kills child. How do you, I mean, you could be as innocent as, you know, as pure as the driven snow. You will never, ever get out from under that. You know, it's like the question is, when, you know, when did you stop beating your spouse? Well, gee, I never started. Oh, that's not a defense. You can't, there's no answer to the question that makes you a winner. You cannot help but lose. So that's another reason I think land trusts are so important. So it's maintaining our privacy. The other things I like about land trusts is they can be structured so you can avoid probate. If you're in a state like Florida, you can still retain your homestead exemption even on your personal residence. So, and the thing I like most is, as you're building out a portfolio, you're going to run into knucklehead tenants. And liens against one property do not attach to other properties. Plus, if you're in partnership with someone else, liens against a beneficiary do not attach to the trust asset, nor do liens against the trustee attached to the trust asset. So lien protection, to me, is one of the, as an investor, almost more important than some of the privacy elements. Because I've had tenants that, you know, they want to park on the lawn, they want to leave trash out, they don't mow the lawn, they don't obey the lease. And yeah, you can threaten them, go through all that stuff. But if you've got a code violation, it could stop you from refinancing another property. It could stop you from selling another property because of blanket lien issues. So it's a great way to prevent blanket liens. I know I'm probably coming close to the end of my time. And so the last thing I want to talk about is,
Can we just stop on the trust for a little bit there?
Sure.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you to talk to you more about that, how would they get a hold of you as far as the trust company is concerned?
well, they can give me a call. Our office number is 407-755-1010. Our company is Commonwealth Trust Services. Or you can visit us online at yourlandtrust.com.
And then do you help people in like all 50 states, or is this just like a Florida only type of deal?
It's not a Florida only type deal. We go state by state.
Okay.
So we probably have clients in about 20 states right now. In some states, they do not have trust statutes for land trusts. There's only 6 states that do. But there are certain states that do have grantor trust statutes that have some requirements. So we may be able to help you in another state where we would not want to serve as trustee in that particular state.
I got you.
Okay.
But
So
you guys do serve as trustees as well.
yes, we do.
I know that. Okay.
And obviously there are benefits with having a corporate trustee, because that's the greatest way to protect your privacy. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to have my aunt in Wyoming be my trustee. And I met a fellow that had his aunt in, I don't know, Minnesota or somewhere in the Midwest. And yeah, she was like 80 years old. And when an attorney called her and said, I'd like to get more information about the owner of this property, she said, I knew my nephew was a crook all along. Here's his address, here's his phone number, here's his email. Go get him.
Well, it's funny because like I didn't even know that about you. I knew you had the trust company. I didn't know exactly how far it went, but I promise you, the number one question I get for people that have self-directed IRAs that try to set up a trust to be able to do real estate deals, other self-directed IRA is, how do I find a trustee? I mean, it's literally the number one question.
Wow.
Yeah. So I will definitely pass along people to you, just because that's something that, so you guys are acting as a corporate trustee and as a fiduciary, I'm assuming, like
Yes.
the whole company is set up for that purpose.
Yeah, and actually we even work with private lenders, you know, because to perfect a lien, you typically have to have, you know, if it's an IRA, you need the account number to be published. And that's going to be out there in the public record unless you create a lender trust.
Right.
So in a land trust, you can hold different kinds of interests, but they all have to be real estate related. So we have obviously notes and mortgages as well as deeds, but also options can be held in trust. Leases can be held in trust. And so, and one of the things that we do that's a little unique for lenders is we also have the borrower provide their beneficial interest in the trust as collateral. You've got, you know, three elements in the trust. You've got the trustee and the beneficiary, and in the middle, you've got the trust asset. Okay. Now, with a note and a mortgage, you get a certain level of protection. And one of the things that I've always envied the folks that work in non-judicial states is that they've got a deed of trust. So it's pretty easy, pretty quick to take a property back. Now, I've lived in New York and I've lived in Florida, both judicial states, and it can take you years. I mean, I prosecuted a foreclosure for 7 years. And I finally, you know, I knew I was going to win, but the number of times my wife got upset about it could be an Olympic record or a Guinness Book of World Records. And I kept telling her, don't worry, because we've accelerated the mortgage. We're getting 18%. I turned a $60,000 loan into $250,000. So I really didn't feel bad about the whole thing. But it just goes to show you how long it can take.
Right.
Because this guy played every game in the book. And he was a very good teacher for me. That's what actually brought this, you know, this collateral assignment into being. So we now have, when I do a loan, it has to be in a land trust, and we are going to, in addition to the note and mortgage, get an assignment, a collateral assignment of beneficial interest. So if they default, that beneficial interest reverts to me, which gives me the right to then go list the property for sale or do whatever it is I want. And so I don't necessarily have to go through the entire foreclosure process. Now, obviously, if somebody wanted to fight and go to court, you could end up with that. But at the end of the day, you know, I've had, you know, private lenders or hard money lenders that we work with that have taken back tons of properties this way with people that defaulted. So anyway.
No, that's really good. I kind of wish we could spend a whole entire time on that. I'm actually might get you on the Active Turnkey podcast for our buyers that are buying, you know, rental properties that we manage for them. And I'd love to have a whole podcast just on the actual land trust, piece of that. So I'm really glad that you brought that in there. So let's get to your final step here. I think you were going to get into it, and I kind of interrupted you. I apologize, but
No. I appreciate the question, Tom.
that was good.
Yeah, the last thing, and I'm going to speak about it briefly because you've been looking at it, for the last 45 minutes. When I got to that, living your legacy, concept, Share the Love wasn't really part of the picture. And I guess about 7 years ago, I got, seriously involved when I went on my first distribution trip. And we provide the gift of mobility to people that have neither the means nor the access to acquire a wheelchair around the world. And we travel to developing and third world countries, but we also help people here. And I'm going to just share a quick story and we'll wrap up. But Sunday morning, I was so thrilled. I was home. I was at John Morey's event last week, and I flew out Saturday evening, got home really late, but I was able to go to my own church in my own neighborhood. And it's a new church for us because we only moved a little over a year ago. And my attendance is very intermittent because of my travel schedule. And after service, I'm out in the lobby meeting some folks, and I see this young man in a wheelchair, double amputee. So I walked over, introduced myself, talked to him a bit, and I said, tell me about your wheelchair. He goes, well, it's not my wheelchair. I had to borrow this. I said, well, I work with a group called Share the Love. Do you need a new wheelchair? He said, that would be amazing. And so, I don't know, it was like a God-inspired thing that it happened because, candidly, most people in the US have no difficulty finding a wheelchair, whereas the rest of the world has a great difficulty. We buy them in bulk at $200 a wheelchair because we buy them by the shipping container load. And the other thing I love about this particular nonprofit is people travel with us. So you get to see people, you get to meet people, and pick them up, put them in a chair. And we go to some amazing places. We work with in-country NGOs, typically Rotarians. The trips are safe. We stay in beautiful places because they want to show off their country. And we get, typically discounted room rates because they know that we're a nonprofit. And every dollar donated goes to the purchase of a wheelchair. We are really good stewards of our donors' money because without them, we're out of business. And so we'd love for you to, get to know us better. You can go to sharethelove.org to see some of what goes on. We have trips listed out there. Later this month, I'm going to Guadalajara, Mexico with a group of people. Then the end of November, we're going to Nicaragua. Jim Ingersoll and I are kind of co-leading that trip with funds that his group raised. And then the last trip of this year will be to Belize, which is a beautiful place with a lot of poverty. And so, on each of these distributions, we usually give away the majority of that container because we love lots of people to get to experience meeting people who are going to actually be using the chairs. Other chairs are delivered after the trip simply because not everyone is able to get to the distribution spots. But we've now been around, for 7 or 8 years. And by the end of this year, we will cross the 10,000 wheelchairs given away threshold. And I'm really excited. We've got 6 trips that are about to go on the books for next year. There'll probably be a total of 8 throughout the year, maybe more. But next year, it looks like we're going to be in Costa Rica and Dominican Republic, Kenya, Tanzania, and I can't quite remember I think possibly Argentina. But we'll be in South America, Central America, and Africa. And possibly another trip to Vietnam. We have a group going to Vietnam in November. So there's a lot going on. We are looking for ambassadors, we're looking for donors, and I know many of you on this call have been great supporters of Share the Love. Tom, again, I want to recognize good success because you guys were just so generous and gracious and allowed us to hold an auction at your event. And man, 405 wheelchairs changes over 4,000 lives. Because every chair doesn't just impact the life of the recipient, but it impacts about 10 people. That's a statistic from, I think, the World Health Organization, because it impacts the family, other caregivers, the whole circle. And so it's really powerful. So other than that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Tom, and to say thanks for having me today. If I can help anybody on this call, please reach out. I'm easy to find. You can find me at Augie, AUGIE, at CommonwealthLandTrust.com.
AUGIE.
Yep. At CommonwealthLandTrust.com.
I'm going to put that in the chat, guys.
Okay, and yeah, you can give the folks here, you give them my cell number too.
Okay.
It's 863-662-9429.
I messed up. So, can I get somebody to type that in there real quick, guys? One more time on the email and the
yeah, it's Augie, AUGIE, at CommonwealthLandTrust.com.
Okay, and then also Andrew put in the different websites in the chat as well, guys. So the CommonwealthTrust.com as far as the website, if you guys are interested in their trust services, and then also the Chair the Love.
YourLandTrust.com will take you right to our site. That's easy to remember. YOURLANDTRUST.
Your Land Trust. Okay. So YourLandTrust.com will get you there as well. And we also put the chairthelove.org in there as well. You guys also have the QR code on the background here. You guys can obviously donate there if you would like to. And like you said, he's not just looking for donors. I think donating is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I think it's something that we all can do. We can always donate. We can pray. That's something else that we can always do. I promise you, it will change your life. It'll change your kids' lives if you actually will go on a trip. So go with Augie, and you guys can find, if you guys connect with Augie, I'm sure at that email, or even the Chair the Love. Is there another way for them to connect with you other than just the email or cell phone? His cell phone's right there as well.
Yeah,
Facebook, the best ways.
I'm kind of all over Facebook. I'm not too hard to find.
Yeah,
and you can always DM me or whatever.
And then how many people do you normally bring on those trips?
Anywhere from like 12 to 25.
Okay.
That's the range. And because we'll fill up a bus and, it's always an amazing experience. They're all a little bit different. And we work some tourism in as well, because our hosts want to show off their country. So you might get to, Nicaragua will probably go see a mountain or a historical city or something of that nature. In Africa, we've gone on safaris. In the Philippines, we've been through to some just amazing places that, the average tourist wouldn't get to see. So it's really very special. And I do have one request, if I can just do one ask. I'm trying to get families, especially families with kids, to donate $18.50 a month on a regular basis, because that will add up to one wheelchair a year from that family, because I want to find 10,000 families across America. So if you can help spread that word, because I want the kids involved in the giving, even if they give, 25 or 50 cents out of their allowance and the parents cover the rest, because it'll teach kids about giving to someone who can never give back. And they can change a life. And we'll send them a picture at the end of the year after they've done 12. They will have actually, caused someone to receive a wheelchair. So we really appreciate it. Tom, back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's great. And I love that encouragement, and I'm all about it. That's the reason why I do what I do. I think a lot of us could retire a lot quicker if we just were here for ourselves, and that's all we were. The only reason why we do life is for ourselves. I feel like retirement's a very empty goal.
Well, those are not a word to be found in the Bible. I've looked like 12 times. I've read it cover to cover, man. I keep going. And it's like no word retire, no retirement.
In fact, it actually commands us to work 6 days out of it's part of the fourth commandment. We talk about remember the Sabbath, but what we forget that part of that fourth commandment is actually to work 6 days and rest 1 day. But also again, I'm glad for the encouragement for you guys to give, and you guys can give. But again, I just want to throw in my hat in that ring to just encourage you to take your family. Donate, that's fine, but take your family on one of these trips. I promise you, there's nothing more that will change a kid's life than to go on a trip like this. And that's why I do what I do with our seniors for our Christian school here as well. So I was really excited about hearing from Augie this morning. He actually went out just for you guys to know the kind of guy that Augie is. And he did not ask me to say this. Will probably be embarrassed for me to tell you this, but he went out after our meeting and went out and raised more money for the kids for our senior trip. And I was delighted to hear that. And I really appreciate you, Augie. And that to me, that really means a lot that you'll do that. I do want to get with you about the trusts. There are some things that I even want to do personally with you on the trusts, and then also get you on the Active Turnkey podcast for the trust as well. But I do want to kind of just hop back on here and just remind you guys about the next couple calls and make sure everybody is looking out for those. Oh, I've shared my screen, then I didn't share my screen. Hopefully it works here. So next call next Tuesday. So it's not going to be very long from tonight. I know we normally do these monthly, but we skip the calls in September for the event. But next Tuesday, I'm telling you, David Malcavani is an economic mind. Anna Kelly is amazing. David, I'm telling you guys, he's the real deal. Promise me. I promise you guys will not want to miss David Malcavani. And then also Tori Aguilar. We're kind of in a buy zone right now. We kind of got a buy ticker this week with gold. So if you guys are investing in precious metals, just keep an eye out for that as well. But Tori will be talking about precious metals, and David will talk more. It might probably gonna be a little bit of a longer call. David also has a weekly call that he does, like a podcast type of deal. But talking about economics, talking about gold, these are the guys that you guys are going to want to hear from. I absolutely promise you. So make sure of that. And then if you guys are local, don't forget about the local meetup group on Thursday, October 5th, 5:30 p.m. We're talking about how you can manage your own rental properties. That's going to do it for today, folks. And does anybody have any questions or anything? I'd love to kind of open up the floor if anybody does have any questions. I think we've already answered all the questions in the chat so far. Anna says, thanks for the shout out. You have a great group of experts and go-givers. But thank you guys for being on today. Thank you, Augie, for being who you are and for investing in our community today. We appreciate you. You're always inspiring. I love getting with people that inspire me. So you guys should too. So remember, be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. We don't live this life for ourselves. We live this life for others. And just go through your day today. Let me give you this last piece. Go through your day today, just asking God who is going to thank God that you lived your life today. That's it, guys. Have a good day. God bless.
Thanks, Tom. God bless everybody.